Welcome to Model Steam Engine Live Steam Tests. Part 6, the steam tests of a Kingdon type boiler showing both coal firing and gas firing after I fitted the boiler into a steam plant. Here's the boiler fully in steam and blowing off. I built this to be a dual fuel boiler. I'm showing it in steam using coal and as part of a steam plant running on gas. The first item that I need is a large bottle of water, and here it is in the middle of the bench. I'll just move it to one side and put the boiler in place. So I have charcoal soaked in white spirit, I have some coal, I have the boiler, and I have a hand pump connected to the boiler, and the blower is in the chimney ready to be plugged into the 12-volt supply when it's required. And it's a lovely day, so here we go. I start off by opening the firehole door and feeding in some charcoal soaked in white spirit. And as you can see in this clip, I'm putting a generous amount of this charcoal into the firebox. It's very important that the entire grate is covered. I leave just one piece of charcoal sticking out of the firehole door. I light that and quickly push it into the firehole and simultaneously connect the blower. This is very important because if you don't immediately connect the blower, all the fire will come out of the firehole and burn the front of the boiler and possibly your fingers. So initially, leave the firehole door open for a very short time to make sure that the charcoal is properly lit. And when you look at the fire, about 2 or 3 minutes later, it's glowing nicely. So it's time now to add some coal, but not too much. It looks like I'm putting a lot on here. But they are very small pieces. You just need enough to cover the top of the charcoal. If you put too much on, the whole thing's likely to go out. And the rule is, when you finish with the firehole door, always shut it. Because if you leave it open, cold air rushes into the firehole and goes up the tubes and the boiler doesn't steam well. But this boiler is steaming very well indeed. And when the steam pressure in the boiler is at about 30 pounds per square inch, remove the electric blower and turn on the steam blower. But don't turn off the electric blower. Just let it sit on the bench or on the floor, just running so it's blowing cold air through itself, and that will cool it down. But don't forget about it, you don't want to leave it running all the time, otherwise it will flatten the battery. This close-up shot of the pressure gauge shows that there is 40 pounds per square inch of steam pressure in the boiler now. I originally set the safety valve to blow off at 60 psi on compressed air. But now the boiler's in steam, the safety valve is behaving oddly, and this is quite normal. It's doing two things. One is it's blowing off at too low a pressure, and the other one is lifting water. This is called priming, and it's very common on a new boiler. Inside the boiler are products of the silver soldering process. I'll just open the steam tap and make sure the pipes are all clear, and yes they are. As I was saying, this priming is due to impurities in the water. I don't advocate using distilled water, this is not the issue. The issue is the impurities are there to start with from the silver soldering process. And once this settles down, the safety valve will stop lifting water and the priming will stop. Priming is a problem because the safety valve is ejecting water from the boiler, not just excess steam. And of course the water level drops in the boiler. So always be very careful. Make sure that you have a good water supply and the hand pump is working correctly. Don't forget, this is not a gas-fired boiler. You cannot just turn off the heat. With a steam boiler, particularly a coal-fired boiler, you always have to be doing something. You look at the fire's low, put some coal on, but then don't do anything else, because if you put water in at the same time whilst the coal is lighting, and you know it's lighting because look at the smoke. But don't forget, if the steam blower's on, that is using steam. And that means the water level is going to drop just with the blower running. And then the safety valve blows off, and it's priming, so it's lifting water, and if you're not careful you can end up with no water in the boiler and the boiler will be irreparably damaged. Now when I look at the fire, I see that it's really well lit, and if I look at the chimney, there's no smoke. There's a lot of heat coming out of the chimney, but no smoke. And to show what happens when I turn the blower up, you get a lot of ash coming up the chimney as well, and some of this ash is lit and it lands on your head, and it's very painful. Especially if your hair is not as thick as it once was. So the sequence of events is the fire okay? Yes. Right, put some water in. Is the fire okay? No. Put some coal on. Wait until the coal is all lit and the pressure starts to rise again. I converted this boiler to be gas-fired, and here it is making steam for a Cotswold Heritage Atlas steam plant. This is a number 5 gas jet. I would normally use a number 8 gas jet, which is a bit bigger, but because this Kingdom boiler is a fire tube type boiler, it should be okay with a number 5. It'll be very sedate and gentle. Time to give it a steam test. With a commercial gas tank connected at one end of the pipe, I lit the burner. And I adjusted the position of the gas jet in the Venturi tube so that I got a lot of little blue triangles on top of the burner. The burner's starting to glow red now, but there's still some blue visible. If the position of the gas jet is set incorrectly, these type of burners tend to burn out. It took about 10 minutes to raise steam, so I thought it was a good time to test the siren, and as you can hear, it seems to work fine. I'm not a great lover of sirens unless they're on traction engines where you normally find them. I set the safety valve to 60 pounds per square inch blow-off pressure, and here at 60 pounds per square inch on the gauge, it's blowing off. It stops blowing off as I pump some cold water into the boiler. I know that this engine works on compressed air. Does it work on steam? I'm turning the flywheel to clear the condensate, and as soon as that clears, off we go. This steam engine has a very slight clunk as it rotates, but it's not too bad. At least it doesn't sound like a pneumatic drill. As I mentioned earlier, this boiler only has a number 5 jet in the gas burner, but it's steaming very well. In this shot you can see the entire steam plant, and you can also see the commercial gas canister, and this looks terrible, so I'm going to remove it. And here is a good tip. Mask off the thread with some masking tape and spray them with satin black paint. Then they look really good on a steam plant. A few years ago I built some model steam launchers, and I used to do exactly the same as this. The canisters were slightly smaller, but I painted them black, put them in the boat, and they looked okay. Everything was fine, then I encountered a problem. The boiler's blowing off, and the siren refuses to pick up. I'm going to fit the replacement siren that Microcosm sent and see if that's any better. But that's it for this episode. I'm just going to leave the plant running until the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you found it useful. I will end this video with a health and safety warning. Always disconnect the gas tank adapter after use. Never leave it connected to the canister.